Okay, everybody, this is Sheets, and I'm going to be going over week one of the Survivor Pool content today. And for those of you that joined me last year on our journey through the season, hopefully you guys learned something. And what I'm going to be doing this year is I'm going to be posting this Survivor content on truedfs.com for premium members. So unfortunately, or fortunately, or whatever, I'm not going to be doing the free YouTube videos on this anymore. But I will do it for the first week for free. And then subsequently, if you want to get Survivor content, you'll go to truedfs.com, become a premium member. I think you get 1 month for free, and that's where you'll be able to view it. So what I am going to do, though, is kind of review what I feel is important regarding Survivor pools in general, and at least, and let's just start off with week one. There is a video within my channel somewhere where I go over some pretty in-depth strategy with Brave Jayhawk. You could look for that if you still want something for free. But if you want to follow along with selections and advice during the season, as I said, you'll go to truedfs.com and access it there. So again, Survivor pool business. It's about two different things. It's about EV, that is immediate EV, and future value. In other words, you want to pick teams that have a combination of good winning chances and low popularity, meaning, if you have two teams with equal winning chances, it does, if one team is going to be owned by 90% of your pool, you certainly want to get leverage against that. And with respect to future value, you want to pick teams that you are not going to want to use in the future. In other words, you want to pick teams with low future value. And the balance of the future value consideration with the immediate EV consideration is really what turns Survivor pool business into an art. There is no absolute correct answer as to what is more important between maximizing immediate EV this week or planning for the future. And again, if it was completely solved, then it wouldn't be fun anymore anyway. So what I have here is Survivor Grid, and Survivor Grid basically does the work for you with respect to your immediate EV. What it does is it has this column of win percentage, and the win percentage, again, that's just based on what Vegas's implied win percentage is given the odds, okay, given the betting odds. Now, again, does that mean that's actually what their winning chances are? No, but we have to accept going in that Vegas's implied odds is the closest you're going to get to knowing exactly what the team's actual win percent chance is. So we're going to have to go with that. Please, I really encourage you to not try to supplant, not try to substitute your own opinions for Vegas to that great of a degree. If you have a really strong opinion on a team, okay, maybe break a tie with that, but really don't just think that these winning percent chances are just off, okay? Next thing is this P thing, this popularity percentage. This is the degree in which this team is supposedly going to be picked through the universe that you select. As you can tell, you can pick whether you pick the office football pool universe, the run your pool universe, or an average of them, whatever. It really does depend on what type of pool that you're in, how you assess popularity. But what I'm going to presume for the purposes of this discussion is that, you're in a big pool, and the big pool is going to reflect ownership of the people at large. So with that, you can use the office football pool numbers to be somewhat accurate, at least for the first, half of the season. Once people start getting knocked out and every pool starts to take on its own character, then you're going to have to be a little more, proactive about knowing who exactly in your pool people are likely to pick, but that's down the road. So what they do is they calculate all of this for you. A win percentage as a function of popularity gets this column on the left is EV. And as I said, that is consideration number one. Well, I hate to say one. I mean, it's one of 1A, right? Of what makes a good survivor pool pick. And then all the way on the right, you see future value. Now, future value, the way they assess it is they put stars on it, but future value, there's a lot more subtlety to it than that. And we'll get to some examples of that as we get down the course of the season. For example, if there's a team that you're going to want to save, or you think you're going to want to save for say week 16 or 17, and the reality is that team is going to end up being so popular that you might want to even fade them anyway, then it really doesn't have that much future value for you at all. The other thing is that you can only play one team a week. So if you're worried about 3 teams that, you're going to want to save for week, say 15, I mean, don't worry too much about it, because you're going to need to pick only one of them. So don't go too crazy with that. Now, obviously you want to maintain some flexibility. So the more teams you save, the better. One little thing that I will leave you with, or, as we start off the season, is this. The bigger the pool you're in and the more picks you have to make, like let's say that you have double picks in week 5 or double picks in week 11, and depending on your pool, again, you're going to have to determine that on your own, is the more picks you have to make, the more important it is to respect future value. In other words, the more picks you have to make towards the end of the season, the more important it's going to be to take teams now with low future value. And to save and to save and to save. Don't become that sucker that just tries to survive every week. It's just really, really awful. It's terrible. It's the reason why I am plus EV and all these things is because of people like that. The people that just try to survive every week. Don't be that person. Just play teams with good EV, which means not just winning chances, but low own winning chances. And play teams that you're not going to want to pick in the future. Okay. So let's take a look at week 1 and show you, kind of a primitive yet very, very effective way how to analyze these things. So what I've done is I've sorted by immediate EV. And you'll see that Tampa rates to be the highest immediate EV play. So if you were just rating these by EV, Tampa would rate to be the top play by a pretty wide margin. And then you'll see Buffalo slightly better than KC, who is tied with the Rams, pretty much tied with San Francisco, and then a drop down to maybe Carolina or Baltimore. And so if that were the entire discussion, is which team's got the best EV, then it would be simple. I would say take Tampa and just be done with it. But it's not exactly that easy, because you do have to factor in future value somewhat. So, without getting too into the mapping of these teams and that'll be maybe for later weeks. But even if you just look at the future value on the right column, you see like the first 3 teams all have significant future value, and it makes good instinctive sense, right? I mean, these are 3 really good teams. You're going to be able to use them later. And you're going to want to use them later. So saving these teams is certainly, something that you need to consider. So, the question then becomes, how important is this EV? Okay. First thing I would say is that given the fact that Tampa has higher EV significantly than Buffalo and Kansas City, and they all have pretty high future value, then I would think that the first 2 plays that you would not want to play on this slate, it'd be Buffalo and Kansas City, right? It makes perfect sense. I mean, because they don't rate as high EV wise, and you're not picking up any future value by playing them. The first team that at least merits some consideration are the Rams, because they do not have as high EV as Tampa, but they do have less future value. Now, again, this is a very primitive way of assessing future value. You know, when we start talking about mapping this whole season, you know, as we get down to later weeks, maybe we could talk about where these future values exist and where they're just kind of illusions. But you see already, like, you're going to probably want to play them in week 7. You want to play them maybe in week 13. So, but aside from those two, you know what I mean? Like they don't have, he doesn't have that much future value to take the Rams. So what I would do is first, let's look at week 7 anyway. Week 7, they actually look like one of the best plays. Okay. So the Rams in week 7 do look very, very strong, and they look to be the very best play by a little bit in week 13. So the Rams look like a team that you really are going to want to hold. So even though they have less future value than Buffalo and Kansas City, I think that the Rams are probably a fade this week as well. But I do think that if you were spreading around and you wanted to play a team like this, I think that it's definitely better to play the Rams than Kansas City and Buffalo. Okay, and that makes sense. The next team to look at is San Francisco. They are very similar to the Rams as far as I'm concerned. EV not as high as Tampa, and future value is a little bit better, but certainly nothing earth shattering. You know, like you are going to want, you do have them, you know, you're going to want to use San Francisco at least somewhat. The team that's really interesting, and this is where the scales tip, is Carolina. Okay, because Carolina, you'll notice that they have significantly less EV than teams like Tampa, Buffalo, teams that we mentioned, but their future value is nearly zero. And it makes sense when you think about it, right? So Carolina's a really crappy team. So, you know, if you can get away with using them now, you're probably going to be really happy about that. If you can get away with it, because you're never going to use them in the future. Now, I shouldn't say never. I mean, it's possible that, you know, things kind of screw around and they you know, some teams become bad and Carolina becomes good, whatever. But based on the information we have now, it's very unlikely you're ever going to use Carolina in the future. So Carolina is the future value type play, right? Let's look at some others. Baltimore, just a weaker play than Carolina, right? Less EV and more future value. Green Bay, same deal. The two teams that are somewhat interesting, if you want to be really aggressive, are Minnesota and Jacksonville, because Jacksonville again is going to be extremely awful this year, and this might be one of the only few chances they have to win is when they're playing against Houston, and so that's why their future value is almost zero. Their EV is really, really weak though compared to these others, so it'd be really regressive to attempt to take them. But if you're in a pool with 1 billion people that have triple picks later in the year, that might not be the worst idea in the world. You want to, okay, so here's an example of kind of what I feel is a very kind of advanced play, but kind of a sucker play also. So I want to talk about Minnesota for a second. And this will give you an idea of where I'm coming from. What if I told you that week 5 was a week that you required to make double picks? Okay. Now I say that because there are a couple of very well-known pools out there that do require exactly that in week 5 to have double picks. But even if this weren't the case, I mean, this is the way you got to think about these things. So you go to week 5 and you sort by the best plays, and you can do this on Survivor Grid, and you'll see that not only is Minnesota the best play, but you'll see that the whole week is really, really weak. Like there's nothing better than an 8-point favorite, unless you want to play Tampa, who you're not going to want to play if you didn't burn them already this week. And then you're down to teams like New England. Dallas is okay, but it's a week where you would really want to use Minnesota, okay? Especially if you kind of cross out weeks 1 and 4, right? If you just look from 5 onward, you'd see that Minnesota has almost no future value after this week, okay? So what we're doing is I'm pretending that we're already in week 5, okay? So if you're in week 5, you would be thinking, wow, Minnesota is the top play and they have no future value. But the thing is this, all right, especially in double picks, Minnesota is going to stand out as really that type of play, right? But the problem is that everybody's going to have them available and everybody is going to play them, right? So Minnesota, you will know, in advance, is going to be like 50, 60% owned in double pick pools. They might be similarly owned in single pick pools. So what you can do, and again, this is sort of advanced, is you could take Minnesota now, burn them now, to avoid kind of the temptation to take them in 5, you know. It will automatically put you on a path, if you take Minnesota now and get away with it, where you're already going to be fading a really, really popular team, okay, in week 5. Now, again, I know the argument, well, why don't you just not play them in week 5? Yeah, you can do that too, okay, but this way you actually get put on that path without you having to choose it. So that's like kind of the one kind of like weird esoteric play that I would consider making. But overall, I do think that the 2 top plays, at least based on straight survivor pool, you know, what was I going to say? Survivor pool theory is some combination of Tampa and Carolina. And then the next group would probably be something like the Rams and maybe, again, Minnesota, Jacksonville or something. So that's where I'm at for week 1. I'll be back again on True DFS for week 2 and week 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever it is. That's all I have for today. Good luck. It's a very, very frustrating and yet exciting game, survivor pool play. And I look forward to taking you on this journey with me.